Hey guys, Kristian Mischke here with another tutorial. This time I'll be going over the sensing blocks. Okay, so we'll be going over a bunch of these blocks and we'll see how many we can get through. Let's do touching first. So let's set up a basic scene in Scratch. When the flag is clicked, and then we'll always check. And if it is touching, if our cat here is touching the mouse pointer, then we shall make him say hello. Let's try that out. Okay, he says hello for 2 seconds whenever my mouse crosses over his path. Pretty simple. In processing, here we are. Let's set up our basic scene first. Void setup. First, give it a good size of like 600 by 500 pixels maybe. And first just run it and figure out how we're going to do some things. First time it runs, it takes a little bit of time. Okay, it's down here. And there we are. We got a screen. Let's make a square object, and then when our mouse crosses over it, we can make it do something. Okay, we're going to do our void draw to draw our square. Let's use some of our previous knowledge with variables. Let's have an integer for its x-axis, and let's set that to, well, let's just make integer for the x and integer for the y. You can put a comma in between, and I'll just make them both equal to 0. And then here in the setup, we can set x equals width divided by 2, so this way our square will be at the center of the screen. Y equals height divided by 2. And rect mode, let's do center. This way our rectangles will be drawn at the center instead of the corner. And in the draw, every time it loops through here, we'll want to draw it. Let's give it a size of like 40, 45 maybe. Okay, so let's do a rect at position X, position Y, 45, 45, like so. And we don't have a color set, so we'll need to do that, but it will do the default colors right here. Okay. Okay, next up, color. Right before here, we're going to do fill with the color of red. So that would be 255.00. Yeah, let me just put spaces in here. Okay. Simple square. And when our mouse crosses over it, we want it to say hello down here in the parameters, or in the console. So, there. And the way we can do that, we have an if statement here, if touching mouse pointer. Now in processing, of course, we don't have like objects that are the same as this, and then you can just do touching mouse pointer. We have to do something more in depth. This is one of the more complicated things. It's not exactly the same as what it says on the block. So we're going to have to think around it, because in their touching parameter, they have advanced ways to check to see if you're touching the ear, if you're touching like all of these spaces. If you put in between the legs, it won't count. It has to be a solid pixel. And we're not going to do that because that's a little complicated for this scope. So we're just going to create a box, and we have a box, so whenever the box will be touched, that's when will be touched. And if you had a circle, it would still be the box limits. So our box is 45, let's make that 40 for simpler math. So we have 40, 40 wide and 40 tall. So we want our mouse X, if you recall from, this is also another sensing block right here, mouse X and mouse Y. All you have to do is type in mouse X like this. If it's pink, then you know it worked. And if the mouse X is greater than the X of our square, so X minus 20, because the X and Y sit at the very center of our square, and our whole width is 40, but we want to be on this half of it. So if it's greater than, which means, let me comment this out and run it. Which means, so here's our X and Y right here, and then if our mouse is greater than X minus 20, so X is here, minus 20 is here. So if it's more than this, so if it's on this side, anywhere over here, and then we'll want to clamp it down so if it's only in between these two. And we can do that like so. Put an and in here, put mouse X is less than X plus 20. So now if it's greater than this edge and it's less than this edge, so it has to be in between here to work. It can still be up here though, so we need to restrict it to the Y. Out here, nothing will happen. Out here, nothing will happen. Okay, so that's X. Add another and, oops, and then mouse Y. Just like the block and scratch. Where's it? Right here. Works exactly the same. And here we go. Mouse Y is greater than Y minus 20. So remember, Y points down, so up is minus. So so now this will restrict it to being down here. And the other parameter, or mouse Y is less than Y plus 20. And let me just put some spaces in here. So now it will be restricted into the bounds of the box. The X takes care of it in between here, and the Y takes care of it in between here. Okay, we can go inside of here, and finally, we can say, print line, you're touching me. Okay, stop touching me. How about that? How about stop touching me? There. And then we can run the program. Drag the box up, the window up here, and you see it's not doing anything when my mouse is moving around, but once my mouse crosses here, it shouts it out a lot in there in the chat because it's checking every single frame. So that's touching me, yeah. And let's see, I'll go over another one. So that's touching, and that's with a bounds of a box. Now I'll show you here what happens if we comment this out and put an ellipse over it. Okay, we put the ellipse at X, Y, oops, Y, and then give it a radius of 40. And if we run this, I'm sorry, we give it a radius X and a radius Y of 40. So same commands both. You'll see we have our circle here, and it's not saying anything when I put our mouse here, but if I put it in this very corner, it will, even though I'm not touching it, because that's sensing the bounds of the box. That's what this is. So it's simple bounds, which usually work in lots of cases for buttons and stuff. You can do more advanced cases, but I'm not going to get into that. So yes, that's touching. Touching color is a very advanced thing that Scratch made so simple by just using this block. I don't know, it's not very advanced, it's just very in-depth, so I'm not going to go over that. Distance too, I'll show you that. So, whenever how about here, I'll show you two more like this. So first off, whenever we click with our mouse, we want to check the distance between something, let's say. Okay, so very simple. We have mouse down here, and here we can do mouse, pressed, boom, and it's the same thing. It's just, and when it's pink, you know it worked. And this is also quite cool because in Scratch you can't do this, but say you can also do and then you can have mouse button is equal to left, so that's a left mouse button, or right, and that's the right mouse button. So that's pretty cool. Just a side feature or note. And when it's pressed, we want to give the distance between, say, the box and the mouse pointer. So let's print this out. Oops. Into here. Okay, right here. Let's do distance from, well, now it's a circle, not a box. So from circle to mouse. And we'll put like that. And then add, and we have a very simple way to do this. You don't have to do like you would in Java. So all you have to do is dist, and then have your parentheses. And that's same as distance to, well, very similar to anyways. Distance to in Scratch works, it will say the distance from this object to something else. So say distance to mouse pointer. It outputs the distance to the mouse pointer right there. And you can do distance to other objects. In processing, you have to just specify both points, not objects, but points. So the parameters are x, y, x1, y1, or I guess you could say 2. So in here, we're going to go from x and y, the position, the very center of the circle, note, and then we're going to do mouse x, and mouse y, and that'll simply give us the distance. On our program, we have a few things to check. Make sure that mouse pressed works. Now, when I click on this screen to drag it up, okay, good, it doesn't do it. I thought it might. So we can still drag our thing through here, and it says stop touching me. Now we can click and move my mouse farther away. Keep clicking. Click right next to it. You can see the distance is getting low. Click right on it. It's really low, and then getting higher and higher when I click over here. So it works. Okay, thank you for watching. This goes over a few of the blocks of sensing, and then I'll do a second video for some of the other blocks. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.